Pastor Dumba, members of the platform, fellow Christians, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet shall stand within its, O Jerusalem. Thank you for the invitation to give you 10 minutes of reflection on Fast and Prayer Day. It's difficult to talk in 10 minutes about what God has done for 160 some years, but I will try. You know, Liberia started because there were some problems in the United States. They came here in the 1700s and took people away by force to be slaves. They went there and they forced people to make farms, to work in factories and do all kinds of things. By that time, they served a God that told them that black people were inferior to white people. As time went by, the people in Britain got sense. They started to feel the conviction of God that you cannot treat human beings like cattle. And so people like William Wilberforce in Britain and other places got together and they lobbied the parliament to ban slavery. Slavery was banned. The people in the United States also felt bad that they had slaves there, and so they banned slavery. After doing that, they had a problem on their hand. What do you do with all these surplus laborers? All these surplus black people who you now want to pay to work? You are used to forcing them to work for almost 300 years. How do you accommodate them now that you believe that they are not your equal? And so that problem started, and they found out that they had to do something very serious. While they were thinking about what to do, the black people in Haiti beat the French, drove them away, and declared themselves independent. And so Haiti became the first black independent republic in the world since God said, let there be light. When the people in the United States saw that the people in Haiti have driven off the white people and declared themselves independent, they panicked because there were more black people in America than there were in Haiti. And so they had a meeting in Washington, D.C., December 1816, to decide what do we do with all these black people. And so they decided that they were going to send them back home. In that meeting in Washington, D.C., were some prominent members of the government of the United States. Bushrod Washington, of the Supreme Court of the United States, who was the nephew of George Washington, the first president. Thomas Jefferson, a former president of the United States, was in that meeting. Henry Clay, Speaker of the House, was in that meeting. Daniel Webster of the Webster Dictionary family was in that meeting. Patrick Henry, who said, give me liberty or give me death, was in that meeting. A lot of people were in that meeting, and they decided we have to send these black folks back to Africa. And so that is how they formed the American Colonization Society and decided to send black folks back to Africa. When the people got together, they wanted to send these people back, but they did not know how to break the news to the black people. Because how do you tell people you just want to pack them up and send them to a land that they did not know? You should note that when these people were forcefully taken from Africa to the United States, it was about 300 years before they decided to bring them back. Just how Israel was in exile for 300 years, just how the South Africans were under apartheid for 300 years. So like people in America were under servitude for 300 years. So some of the black people refused to come. They said our blood, sweat, and tears are mingled with development in this country. We built this country, we'll stay here, we'll enjoy this country. So they refused to come. Then the social scientists got together to find out how best to get these black folks to leave America. And they came with one conclusion, and that is what I want us to remember as a nation. They came to the conclusion that black people like God business. And so we can't force them to go, because many of these black people who want to go back to Africa were in the army, their descendants were in the army who fought the war for independence against the British. And they are fighters. You can't force them to go back, they rebel. Therefore, they call on the church. The United States government called on the church for help. The social scientists have decided that black people like God business, and we want to see how the church can help us get these people out of here. And so they went to Princeton, New Jersey, and they found Reverend Robert Finley of the Presbyterian Church. And they wanted Robert Finley to help. And so Robert Finley organized a crusade. And they announced to the black folks, we are taking you back to Africa to Christianize and civilize the people there. Immediately, all the black folks got up and were ready to come. So remember, the idea of Liberia was born out of the church. No political party met, or no politician met to say we're going to organize a country. Those people did not come here to organize a country. They came here on a revival and a crusade of evangelism to Christianize and civilize the people of Africa. On the day that we're leaving the United States, they did like the people of Israel did when they were crossing over. They read from the book of Deuteronomy. And if you go home, read Deuteronomy chapter 11, the whole chapter, that's what they read when they were getting the ship to come to this place. Deuteronomy chapter 11. And for the sake of our now generation, I would like to say that in some part of that Deuteronomy chapter 11, it is stated, when you build your big houses, and you get farms, and you get all kinds of things, gold and diamond, and when you get oil, do not forget God. Go read it. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 11. When you get oil, do not forget God. Because some of us already crazy. The oil not out of the ground yet. When you get oil, do not forget your God. They read that passage, got in a boat, and came to Africa. They stopped in Sierra Leone. The British people had established Sierra Leone many, many years before Liberia was organized. The people in Sierra Leone are those people who fought on the British side when the British and the Americans were fighting. The people who fought on the American side were the people that were bringing here. The people who fought on the British side, the British found a place in Sierra Leone for them. And so when they got to Sierra Leone, the Governor McCarthy did not want them there. He drove them from the mainland. He pushed them off to Sherbrooke Island. They got to Sherbrooke Island, and it was very uncomfortable there. The mosquitoes started to kill them up, the malaria. So you see this disease, the pastor are praying about, been around for some time. The malaria started to kill them up. And so they picked up anchor and decided to leave. They didn't know where they were going, but they decided to go east. And you know, good things come from the east. The sun rises in the east. And we are told that in the end, the Messiah will come from the east. So they started to go east, came all the way looking for a place. They didn't find any place. So water, everywhere they looked for water. Until suddenly they saw something in the far distance like a mountain. And they decided to go to that mountain. And they found out they were right near the place we now call Monrovia. And the mountain they saw far off was the place where they built the Ducal Hotel. And so the ship came toward that place. When they came close to that mountain, found out that there was an opening in the water. An opening between Ducal Hotel and what we now call West Point. Now for some of you who are not old enough, West Point was not there in the 1930s. West Point came there in the 1940s. When they dug the sand from the water to make the free put, they dumped the sand where we got West Point. So West Point was made by people. It was not there, it was all water. So they saw the water and they came into that water. And when they came in, they formed an island. The indigenous people who had the place called it the Dozua Island. And those people who came were full of the Spirit. They said, Tino Dozua Island, this is Providence Island. The providence of God brought us here. And from that day until today, we still call it Providence Island. We come to reflect, we come to this fast and prayer story, but we won't give you the background. So they landed on Providence Island. There was some problem with the people they met here, and we're not going through all of that, it will be too long. But eventually they came on shore to mainland Monrovia, Water Street. And then they started to build their little small houses, and they decided that they needed to have a name for their city. And they looked all around, thought about everything, and they said, this place is the city of Christ. This is Christopolis. Jesus brought us here. And so we honor him. That was in the 1820s. By 1824, we got the disease that we still have. A military advisor for the United States government, General Goodlow Harper, came to Liberia and told our people that James Monroe, the 5th President of America, who gave the money for the boat to bring them here, had not been honored. So why will you honor my commander-in-chief? So they talked about it, and he decided to suggest to them that they named their city after James Monroe, the President of the United States. And that is how we forgot who brought us here, and we removed Jesus' name from the city, and we put Monroe there. And we call it Monrovia. Via means road. Monroe's road. So we removed the city of Christ and we put Monrovia. Got settled. By 1846-47, Liberia was organized as a free, sovereign, and independent state. The governors in Freetown who drove these people away started to see Liberia develop. Liberia became independent in 1847. By 1882-83, they developed some problems, diplomatic problems, military problems. The people in Sierra Leone looked to Liberia and started to envy what they saw. So they decided that they would have to take some of this land. And so they sent word to Liberia during the time of President Anthony W. Gardner to say that portion of Cape Mount County must be given to Sierra Leone. They had that argument for more than 1 year. The Sierra Leone delegation came here, they talk and talk and talk. Then came the fast and prayer thing. The Sierra Leonean government sent 4 gunboats to Liberia to demand that we should turn over the land, the part of Cape Mount County. If we didn't turn over that land, they would bomb Monrovia. The old man who was President Anthony W. Gardner was said to be a high blood pressure patient. And so he was scared. He went to the House and Senate and begged them to please let the people take the land so we can be at peace. In those days, we had a House and we had a Senate. They said, by no way will we do it. Let the man bomb the place, but we'll not give it to him. And so the legislature refused to honor President Gardner's request. When the man sent the boat back for the second time, Gardner panicked and resigned. What do you want the old man to do? He had high blood pressure. Gardner panicked and resigned. But you know, the song said God moves in a mysterious way. His wonders to perform. He plants his footsteps in the sea and rides upon the storm. While these people in Sierra Leone, the British government in Sierra Leone were conniving to take the land, God had planted his footsteps in the sea. Because when Gardner resigned, the man who became president was his vice president. And that vice president was Pastor Alfred F. Russell. A Methodist pastor, Alfred F. Russell, became president. This is a lesson for people in the church who feel that if you serve your people, then God will get vexed with you. God doesn't get vexed with faithful leaders. God gets vexed with corrupt, crooked leaders. So President Gardner, the pastor, took over. He had no gunboat. He had no army. He had no Navy, no Boy Scouts, no SSS, no immigration, not even Pen Boys. He had nothing. So what do you think a pastor would do? Pray. Pastor Anthony W. Gardner, president of Liberia, took his cabinet of less than 10 persons and went to the Providence Baptist Church at the corner of Broad and Center Streets. And why do you think he went there? Because Gardner remembered it was in that house that the Declaration of Independence of Liberia was proclaimed. I want to know of 2 countries in the world that can talk about that. Israel that came out of the temple, and Liberia that came out of the Baptist Church. So Gardner went there with his people to fast and pray while the 4 gunboats were waiting for the time to bomb Monrovia. They fasted and they prayed all day long. When the fast ended and the prayer ended, and they came out of the Baptist church, the gunboats were not there. The gunboats were not there. They went back to Sierra Leone. When the old people saw this, They said this is not common. It's not ordinary. This was a spiritual battle that God won for Liberia. And so the House and Senate got together and passed an act in 1883 that every year, from generation to generation, the second Friday in April every year, our people should remember this day. Remember. The problem we have in Liberia is that we do not remember. I always say that Liberia has one national computer big like this house. We got one key. All day long we put in information in that computer. From all the counties, everywhere we put it in. All the businesses, everybody put it in. When we're about to go to sleep, we press the one button. And that button is delete. Delete. We get up in the morning, we forgot everything that happened. And so over the years, we have been pressing delete. We forgot what God did. Our history book had this story of Gardner, the gunboat, and the fast and the prayer. The Senate and the House just didn't go to the Capitol building, or they didn't have Capitol building at that time. They had a big building right by the Centennial Pavilion, which was the law court building. They didn't just go and say, let's have fast and prayer day. Something happened. And what did the Bible tell us? When you cross over and you plant these 12 stones, when your children ask you, what mean ye by these stones? The Bible did not say, if your children ask you. The Bible said, when your children ask you. Because God programmed children to ask questions. Anytime you find a child that does not ask questions all the time, get concerned. God said, when your children ask you, what mean ye by these stones? What do you mean by these stones that we have to observe these memorials? Tell them that I, the Lord your God, with an all-powerful hand, took you out of Egypt, took you out of the house of bondage, out of the house of slavery. I bore you up on eagle's wing and took you into the promised land. When you got to Jericho, you had some black-headed people there who said you were not cross. I didn't bring any Moab or caterpillar to break the walls down. I told you to walk around that place and on the seventh day, blow your trumpets and break your earthen vessels and see the salvation of God. The walls came tumbling down and the women sang, Joshua fit the battle of Jericho. We forget too much in this country. As I speak to you now, the majority of our young people are headed for the beaches all over this country. They're going to strip themselves naked, drink liquor, smoke dope, and they don't know why we celebrate fast and prayer. But you can't blame the young people. Did we tell them? Are the churches telling God's story? Are we just supposed to baptize people and leave them? Are we not supposed to tell them what God has done for this country? We do not. Last year, the first Thursday in November, they had a National Thanksgiving Day at the Providence Baptist Church. No government official attended. None. We happened today, we got a few here. I want to thank them for coming. We want to tell you that there's a song the children used to sing. There's no hiding place down there. When the time comes, the rocks will fall on you, the rock will refuse to fall on you. There's no hiding place. So you see, the president of Liberia, Alfred F. Russell, a Methodist pastor, took a stand against 4 gunboats. They believed in God in those days. They believed that God was alive and God is alive. And so they appealed to God and God saved Liberia. That is why we celebrate Fast and Pray Day. But we have this for such a time as this. For calling us so that we'll remember what happened. Why we celebrate this day? It's not a day that we took and start celebrating because we want to have a fun time. It's because God saved us from danger. God has always saved Liberia. Always. Whenever we call on Him, He saves us. If you fast forward to the Second World War, Howard was president. Hitler sent a submarine here to bomb Monrovia and told Howard, if you do not give me all the American, British, and other Allied citizens here, I will bomb this place. Howard was not a pastor, but Howard remembered what God did in the past. So Howard sent a very cheeky radiogram back to the ship. We will not turn these people over. You may bomb and be damned. Now, can you imagine a Liberian man sitting here, he got no comfort, nothing? But what was Howard depending on? He ran back to the Providence Baptist Church with his cabinet. And they went to pray to God. Prayer is potent. We touch God when we pray. Beginning of a few hours, when the time passed, they're going to go open up. Hitler had no patience for something like that, like giving him. So they bombed Monrovia. They bombed right by the old government hospital and cut down the French cable. The bomb fell down, slipped away. The whole Monrovia panicked. Howard was still praying in the church with his cabinet. In that confusion, in all that confusion, some ship came and bombed the German submarine. When everything died down, a British captain came on shore and told Howard that the radiogram, I forgot that part of the story. Howard now was depending on the Americans. He sent a radiogram to the Americans to come to our help. The Americans sent back to say, I'm sorry, we're too far from you, there's nothing we can do. It was good. When God is going to work, He does not allow your Pharaoh to keep. So we have our Pharaoh we're sending radiogram to. God watched us fall down, then He stepped in. So that British captain told Howard, the radiogram you sent to America, a copy of that came on my machine. Who brought it there? God knows more about technology than we know. They sent the radiogram to America, they were on that ship. So the man came and bombed the German ship and they left. It was because of that they declared the first Thursday in November every year as Thanksgiving Day because God saved Liberia.